In the tapestry of life, where every thread holds a story, America in black and white emerges as a haven for the voices echoing through the heart of our communities. In this podcast, we wade through the rivers of our collective experiences, celebrating the vibrant hues of change brought forth by the whispers of hope and the roars of action. It's more than just a conversation. It's a journey into the heart of our society, illuminated by the light of those daring to dream and do. Join us, and let your voice be the melody that guides us toward a dawn where every color finds its place in the masterpiece of our shared destiny. Together, let's paint a future brimming with the positives that dwell in our minds and the actions that shape.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of America in Black and White, where we discuss the issues of our communities and how we can best solve those issues. Tonight, we have a very special guest. We have Dr. Stephen Jones. Dr. Stephen Jones is an Associate Dean of Student Success in the College of Engineering at Villanova University. Dr. Jones is CEO of SAJ Publishing and Education Services. He's the author of 3 books titled 7 Secrets of How to Study, Parents' Ultimate Education Guide, and Ultimate Scholarship Guide. Dr. Jones specializes in college access, college readiness, and career coaching. Dr. Jones is an education advocate for K-12 college students and parents. Dr. Jones has hopes for our next generation, and he is committed to helping students to achieve their education and career goals. Ladies and gentlemen, I introduce you, Dr. Stephen Jones. Hello, Dr.
Good
Jones.
evening. Yes, good evening. How are you?
I am great. Thank you so very kindly, and we appreciate you for sharing some time with us today.
It's exciting. I've really been looking forward to this since we met. I think that you're already having some wonderful conversations, and I'm happy to be a part of that.
Well, I thank you so very kindly. And before we get into the show, is there anything you'd like to add to your bio?
Well, one of the other big aspects of my life, in addition to all the education things that I do, I'm in ministry. So, serving through our church, families, the community, and also in the education aspect of our church involved in that as well.
Well, I definitely appreciate that, and I'm sure that your community is enjoying all the things that you bring to it. Can you tell us what inspired you to become an entrepreneur, and what was the catalyst for starting your first business?
That's a great question. So, I in the state of Pennsylvania, we have a program called Act 101. And Act 101 is for first generation low income students that want to go to college, but may not have the highest SAT, but have potential to be successful as students. And so, you know, I I served that student population for many years and decided that I need to do something even beyond what happens at the college level. What could I do in terms of serving the students and parents and community to help them to better prepare for college? Because I found so many students who are just brilliant students, but they're dropping out of high school, dropping out of college, and just not prepared for the challenges that they were going to face academically. So with this program, the program that I run is the Summer Bridge program. We have study skills as part of that. It's really important to teach students how to study, how to learn, how to manage their time, how to be organized as they go into the college environment. That book was about 400 pages on how to
Mhm.
study. And I realized that a lot of students wouldn't, read that much information. So on a whim, I said, I'm going to start my own business and start writing my own books to help students academically. And
Oh,
that's how I
wow.
launched my company, SAJ Publishing Education Services, because I wanted to kind of reach back to the middle school and high school students to give them better preparation as they go into college. And then also with those first year college students who need to adjust to how to study when they get there.
Oh, wow. So tell us, what is some of the feedback that you was getting from doing these study guides and things of that nature to help these students to prepare for college?
Well, it was really amazing because a lot of schools had not even considered the fact that they don't provide information about how to study. And so I would go from school to school sharing this, and they were really excited that they could actually have a tool to help their students in all their classes. So this whole study skills strategy is not just something for an English class. It's for everything that you need to do to learn how to study. And I think that that's what drove me that I actually could be a resource to the schools and get out. And the funny thing is, I did a lot of seminars outside of Pennsylvania first. And as I began to build that, then the people in Pennsylvania and Philadelphia began to buy into, oh, this is something that really is a great resource. And doing the seminars and doing the books has been really rewarding to see how far it can impact families.
Can you share some of the key challenges you faced when starting your entrepreneurial journey?
Well, I think just the whole idea that I was actually going to produce this book because I had no idea how to get started. I had to do my research and figure out how to publish it, how to get it edited, how to get it designed, and that at that time, um, the Google and all the search and YouTube weren't as big as they are right now. So, so I went to books, the old-fashioned way, and started reading books and talking to people about how they publish their books. And so, I think one of the big challenges was I became the publisher and also the warehouse for all these books. So I
Mhm.
would buy thousands of books and keep inventory and have to continually turn over that inventory to make it a good situation as far as the business growing. And I think that adding other books increased the visibility and opportunity for what I was going to do.
So, how do you identify opportunities in the market, and what advice would you give to aspiring entrepreneurs?
Yes, especially if you're an entrepreneur in the area of the selling books and marketing books. I think you have to know what your target audience is. A lot of times people write books because it makes them happy and how they feel and what their desires are, but they're not actually looking at who is the market that is going to read this book, who's the market that's going to use this book. So I think it's really important to do that research up front so that as you're eventually advertising and sharing your book with someone, it's going to actually hit the people that will need it uh, throughout the time that you're producing it. And then there are many ways, of course, today with social networks and so forth that you can actually get feedback on whether the book is meeting what you thought it would meet. And I think that that's a way to do it without incurring a lot of costs is getting people to give you that kind of feedback early.
So, what are some of the most important skills you believe every entrepreneur should possess?
Well, absolutely, you have to have that kind of that grit and determination that you're going to make it happen no matter what. You're not going to give up. You're going to use these opportunities that you're going through as learning experiences so that you can get better, that you can be open and developing yourself, continuous education. Even though I have a doctorate degree, I continually try to educate myself on what are the best strategies. I can't use the old methods that I used 10 years ago in today's environment. And you had to continually think about, how can I remake myself so that I meet the needs of today's environment? For example, my books, they're readable books, they're easy to read. But I noticed that a lot of other books were adding QR codes into their books to lead to a different YouTube channel or video. And I already had a podcast called Education Central, and many of the topics in my podcast relate to the topics in the book. So I decided that I was going to put the QR code. Let's say the study skills book. I have things like time management, test taking strategies, how to read your book. So now there's a QR code that the person can put their phone up to and listen to my podcast talking about time management, listen to my podcast talking about test taking strategies. And there's over 120, 25 other podcasts that they can listen to that I've done in that. So that, just being innovative and keeping up with the times. I have ebooks as well. So when they purchase, they can purchase it as an ebook, or they can purchase it as an actual book. I'm still, I'm kind of biased. I'm still into the actual workbook, to have it in your hands, to write in it, to, get some pointers on things to do. And each chapter is really no more than 10 pages, so it's easy for the students to read. When I started on the journey of doing this, the other challenge, I think, was I had parents coming to the seminars about study habits and study strategies. And the parents started asking me if I would write a book for them. And so for me, it was like, I was amazed that I wrote the first book, and now you're asking me as parents to write a book for you. It's like, because it takes about a year to get one of these done, because I'm working full time as well. But in interest of making the parents happy and also knowing that I could benefit them, I started writing a book for the parents, and it's been able to reach a lot of the schools have their parent teachers associations, and just trying to give resources for their parents. And this gives them some practical tips on how to help their children earn the best grades. And I believe that education starts from birth. It doesn't start, when they get into middle school or high school. There are lots of things, especially in the early years, that parents should be doing with their children. So every chapter at the end of this book has a parent sharing how they help their child to do well in school. So it's not just I am a parent, but just getting other parents' views of what works. And actually, in the study skills book, I have college students share in every chapter how they earn A's in their classes. So they not only get my perspective, but they get the college students' perspective as well.
Oh, I really like that. So what made you come up with the actual concept of putting the feedback of the parents in the book? Because I know that, things have kind of like advanced from yesteryear when it comes to education. And I know a lot of parents are trying to keep up. But when you wrote that book, how did you come up with the concept of actually wanting to get the feedback from the parents?
Yeah, I think it came from the seminars, because not only was I doing them, like I said, jointly, but then I also started doing individual seminars for the parents. So that gave me some additional real live feedback on what they needed, what would help them best. And I tried to structure things around that. So I think that was really helpful. And, in anything, surveying people, taking their input, not taking it personally, but taking it as something that's going to help you to help them. And certainly in our community, that's a mission, because I see too many students come to college and drop out the first year just because they didn't have adequate preparation. And so, that's a problem in my eye, because they're investing all this money and then they walk out of the university without a degree. And that should never be. There should always be sufficient support to help them be successful.
Let's pivot to business insights. Can you tell us, how do you approach risk management in your business venture?
I think the way that I approach risk management is making sure, because again, initially, my risk was having this inventory of books and not getting them out there. So I think that was having to make myself very, very visible to so that those things wouldn't, because over time you have to redo the books because you have to
Mhm.
edit them, bring them up to speed. So if you're not doing that, then you're creating a problem for yourself. You're creating a potential situation where people aren't using the book at all. So the other thing was storing these books. When I
Mhm.
initially did this, I had thousands of books stored. So I took the risk of, wow, what if I had a fire? Then, all my books are gone. So now I do it on demand through Amazon, and people can order as many as they want or as few as they want on demand. And they arrive pretty fast through Amazon.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Can you discuss a pivotal moment in your entrepreneur career that significantly impacted your direction?
Pivotal moment. Well, I think that was when I realized first when I started, again, I'm talking about this book publishing company that I had. I thought that having these books, they would just sell by themselves. But I realized that by doing the seminars, that created book sales. And so that was a
Mhm.
pivotal point that I had to really focus more on getting out there and presenting to use that as a tool to get the books out there and to impact the communities that I wanted to impact. So it's, keeping your eye on what's out, how things are moving, and then taking steps in the right direction that will keep your business to thriving.
So, can you explain that process, though, which I think is really fascinating, in having your publishing company? How does that process work from beginning to end?
Okay. So it really starts with the idea and the concept of what you want to do. And a lot of it is related to, for me, has been related to my life experiences and identifying, what I want to change. Because for me, my passion is how can I help students to be successful? So that's driving me. So that whole process of seeing students not being successful and understanding why, because even for myself, I was the first person in my family to even go to college, and I almost failed out my first year because I had a really I didn't have the right GPA at the first semester. I had less than a C GPA, and I had to get with a counselor, get support. So I think that whole idea of what is the process for me, I knew there were others that were having similar experiences, and how could I be using that as a mission to drive my business? I can't say that I originally thought it was going to be through a book. I originally figured I would just go around and be a public speaker and just be a motivational speaker, and that would change things. But I think getting closer to the students themselves and talking to them and having them share their stories and having me share my stories made for a better process than just, when you do it, when you're a public speaker or motivational speaker, you go speak one time and you don't come back generally. You go to the next
Mhm.
one, you go to the next one. But I've had situations where a school will hire me to come do 5 or 6 different seminars, and I'll come back again and again and again and meet with the parents. So now I'm developing the parents. Now I'm developing the students within the school. Um, I've had so part of that process was identifying what were the needs of the parents, what were the needs of the students, um, and of course I'm involved in that on an ongoing basis because these students coming from various high schools. I know that they have different opportunities at the different high schools. Some of them, and I'll just use one for example, a math course. So the same calculus course coming from one school is not the same calculus course coming from another school.
That's cool.
So one student might think that they got the whole complement of calculus. They only went up to 6 chapters, but the other school, they went up to 12 chapters. So I'm sitting in a class in college thinking, oh, I know calculus like the person next to me, but you really don't, because you didn't get a comprehensive, in-depth understanding of it. But you don't know that because somebody, you passed the class at the school that you came from. So just realizing those differences is important. I think then that drove me to say, okay, what can I do to make a difference when I saw that there are people publishing books on this topic, but not making it accessible because it's too much information. So that's when I decided I was going to do something more broken down, easier to read. And so the process was to think about, as I'm writing, make it easy to read, and strategies that they could use right away to start improving their grades. And that's the way it's organized. I want you to right away start doing some things that will help you to improve your grades. And I think that I've been successful at that. Yes.
So so can you tell us that, do you think having the ability to be an innovative thinker and processor like you are, that it made that this is what made the real serious impact, not just in your industry, but for the product, well, the books that you actually put out?
Yeah, you have to definitely be creative and innovative if you're going to survive in any business that you're in. And certainly the publishing industry has changed so much. I mean, a lot of people are downloading books. They have ebooks. They have, you can listen to books as you travel. So many ways that you can get these books these days that you have to be able to keep up with. If all of that, to be a part of growing your business and ensuring that you're giving them the quality that people who are reading it, the quality that they expect. But it takes time, it takes commitment, it takes thinking, processing, it takes, like you said, innovation. It takes going to conferences and listen to what others are doing. It's interesting. So 2-3 weeks ago, my goddaughter, she has her own book she's published for young people who are trying to encourage young girls to go into the sciences. So I got there and I have my own display that I put up. But when I saw her display, she had actually put QR codes on her display. And I was like, oh, I need to do that. And then I have postcards. They're about this big, and I have business cards. And I had just purchased all new postcards and all new business cards. So I decided I would take labels and put the QR code on the label and put it on my business card and put it on this bigger card. So you got to constantly think of what's the next. And she was so excited. I said, yeah, you inspired this. And then she also, I noticed that she had put the QR code on her LinkedIn page. So I took the QR code, put it on my LinkedIn page. So you can learn from anybody as long as you're open to see
now,
how people are
as
thinking.
you say that, I never actually thought of doing that. And so now I think that's interesting where, like for my books, and especially on a social network like LinkedIn, which is, being business professional, that makes a whole lot of sense. That makes a whole lot of sense.
Yeah. Actually, it's interesting because LinkedIn, your LinkedIn page actually has its own QR code.
Oh, see, I got to delve deeper into that.
Yeah, if you look in the upper right-hand corner, it's a little square. You click on that square, and it becomes a QR code. So it's interesting. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Now, I was just thinking about the other book that I wrote was a scholarship book.
Mm-hmm.
And the cost of college is kind of crazy these days.
Mm-hmm.
My own college, Villanova University, is $85,000 a year. So just to think of, so colleges can range anywhere between 35 and 85,000 a year. But there are billions of dollars of scholarships, and guess what? Half of it
Mm.
goes back unused every year because
Really?
not enough because students don't apply or they apply too late and they miss out
Mm-hmm.
on the opportunity. So that kind of was the parents and the students wanted the scholarship book in our conversations. And that was the inspiration for the scholarship book, that's something that they felt would help them because they didn't know where to start. They needed something that would be easy for them to dig into. So I that's my calling card, make it easy. So in the scholarship book, I have over 100 scholarship websites in the back of the book. Plus, I
Oh,
have all
wow.
kinds of, how to write for scholarships, how to interview for scholarships, how to plan for your scholarships. I have the whole steps that you can take toward that. And one tip that I will give every parent that's listening tonight, or even if they're students, is to have a night of the week that's your scholarship night. It could be, or a day. It could be a Sunday evening from 7 to 8. That's when you're searching for scholarships. That's when you're finding out the deadlines when they're due. That's when you're writing essays. So you're doing all things scholarship during that hour. And that way you
Mm.
make sure that you make deadlines. You make sure that you have the essays that you need. Um, there's so I'm an advisor for the National Society of Black Engineers. And many students get their scholarship because not enough students apply for the scholarship.
Mm.
So always be a part of the people who are applying. Another thing is if a student, let's say 5 students were going to receive the scholarship, and
Mm-hmm.
you're the 6th person on the list, and now one of them cancels out, then that scholarship would belong to you. But
Mm-hmm.
you at least need to apply so that you're in the pool of potential
Mm-hmm.
scholarship recipients.
Oh, wow. Oh, so they rank them in order is what you're saying?
Yeah, they rank them in order.
Mm.
Who's number one, who's number two, who's number three. Because some, it just depends on the foundation how many scholarships they're giving out. But
So
just get yourself in there.
so what strategies do you use to stay competitive in your industry?
One of the things that really helps me is getting out there, doing seminars, doing webinars, doing workshops, um, being a part of a conference and doing workshops as part of the conference, and maybe having a table in the vendors area afterward so people can come meet with you and answer questions. Um, I found that to be really beneficial for spreading the word about your business as well when you have that vendors area after you've already given a presentation. Um, so that's been really good. Doing things like I'm doing right now, coming on podcasts, um, having my own podcast, and using that as a tool for people to get to know you, people to feel comfortable with you. And then networking, there's so many ways that you can network through social media, through LinkedIn, always interacting with people. Um, Starting your own group on LinkedIn. I have my own group on LinkedIn. So that's another way to communicate with people as well. And that seems to bring opportunity.
Wow. So what's the name of your group?
It's called Principals and Teachers Network.
Okay.
And that's one page, and then I have the SAJ Publishing page, which is a business page. So I have
Mm-hmm.
basically 2 pages. The Principal and Teacher Network was designed to bring and help like middle school, high school vice principals to become principals. But it's
Mm-hmm.
funny, all kinds of educators have joined the website. That wasn't my intent, but there's over 100,000 people now in this group that are from different backgrounds
That's what's up.
that are sharing.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, yeah. So it's constantly growing. Every day I added about 200 or 300 new people to the group.
So, how do you balance innovation with the demands of running a successful business?
Well, whenever I'm traveling, wherever I'm at, I'm always reading or listening to things that will enhance me in the technological side of things. Um, I was in a seminar at our university 2 weeks ago that was focused on artificial intelligence and robotics. And what's, the future is now, because a lot of these robots and so forth are starting to come into our society, even in surgery. Um, so you have to think about, make that connection between what's happening in artificial intelligence and robotics that could impact what you deliver as a service. Um, and think of how you still have that unique selling proposition of who you are versus the technology, because the technology can come up with people that are avatars and not real people, and start conversations that way. That may be the future. But make yourself still be relevant even in the midst of that.
Okay. Let's pivot to life as an author. And again, it may sound redundant, but what motivated you to start writing, and how did you transition from entrepreneur to author?
Well, I think as an educator, I'm continually doing the research on what happens to students. And when I saw that out of every 10 African American students that start college, I'm talking about males, I'll talk with the males first, only 4 or 5 of them will actually graduate on time. And for the women, out of 10 students, only 6 of them would graduate on time, if they graduate. And I just thought that was devastating, that we're sending all these young people to college and that they're not achieving their dream. Because they go with big dreams, they go with big ideas, and they see themselves as the top of their class. Yet they're still struggling. And I mean, for me, I'm constantly educating them about why and what they can do to do better. I'll give you another example of that. So a lot of students come the first year and they may need help from a tutor, but their pride says, don't go get help because you've already always been the top of your class. And that's a sign of weakness, that you really weren't ready to be in college. And I had to let them know that the students who are getting A's and B's, they're going to tutoring. And they're always amazed when I tell them that. I'm like, yeah, they aren't as smart as you think they are. They're smart enough to know that they need help, though, and they get that help. So these resources are available to you. Take advantage of them. Your advisor is available to you. Take advantage of that. So I think a lot of it is also knowing that they don't know. When I met with the class, the first year class this year, I've been at Villanova close to 20 years. So I asked them, how old were you when I got here? Remember, I was over 20 years old. They were like, oh, we weren't even born. I said, that's what I want you to get. So I've been here 20 years. I know all kinds of things about this university that can help you to be successful. And that's what I want you to do. And, I went on to tell them about what are those things that they need to do as well.
I will say this. When I actually first went to college, I'm going to say, I think I had some pretty good instructors, but my instructors were not as in depth as you explain the college experience. They weren't as in depth as what you're doing. And also, I only had, I think, when I was in undergrad, I think I may have had two, maybe three professors that looked like me.
Mm-hmm.
And so, again, I think that you're making such a difference and such an impact, especially with those students that look like you, because there's a reason, that, when you put out this kind of information and you give them these opportunities, it's got to be impactful in their lives and make them feel that much better about why they're there at college.
Yeah, it could. College is so interesting. College can be. You can be around thousands of people and still feel lonely
Yes, exactly.
because you haven't found your group or make your connection. And so
Hmm.
that's another thing I tell the students: find your group. You know, there are most of the colleges have group. They have these fairs with all the organizations that they have on campus. Try a
Hmm.
few groups and find your group that you're going to stick with. You don't have to join every group, but there's some research that says a student that joins at least one group graduates at a much higher rate than a student that doesn't participate in any group while they're in college. So it's
I
important to
believe
take
that.
that step. Yeah, it's important to take that step. Um, and I've got in engineering, it's they have different societies like the Mechanical Engineering Society, Electrical Engineering Society, National Society of Black Engineers. So we have all these different societies, but you also have clubs. And
Hmm.
I also tell students if there's something that we're not doing, start your own club. And that's another way to draw friends and connections to you is by starting
Hmm.
your own club. And some students do actually do that as a way to get connected. And I think that's so important. It
Can
can go ahead.
Go ahead.
Now, I was going to say that you, especially if you're in a PWI, predominantly white institution, you can feel more lonely. But there are a lot of groups that you'll have to reach out to connect with.
Mm. Can you share the themes or messages that are central to your writing?
I would say the message is that you can do it, and that you need to be equipped to do it. Um, that you need to put on it's a little biblical here. Put on the full armor. You can't go into battle without the preparation and the safeguards. And
Hmm.
so I think that's what I'm trying to be, that safeguard for the student that gives them the foundation for their success, that protects them from the challenges, even with the challenge of reading. That comes to mind. Children do not read as much as they read in the past, but
Hmm.
instructors still give a lot of reading to do. And
Hmm.
so one of the strategies that I'm telling students now is like, you have to increase your reading going into college, especially that senior year. Begin to read more. Begin to, this. I know there are videos and things are quick, but professors still going to give you a lot of that thing. Not only reading for volume, but reading for comprehension. And I think that that's a skill set that I'm trying to push that students develop that, so that they have the mental capacity when those classes require a lot of reading, that they can do that.
Well, I tell you, you're definitely right about that too, because I learned that. Um, I learned that a whole lot more that when I went to grad school, that we had to do a whole lot more of that, and as well as do a lot of presentations.
Hmm.
Vice undergrad, as you mentioned though, getting towards that fourth year, coming into senior year, all of that changes where it's like pretty much all reading and concepts,
Hmm.
So I guess it's just about the adaptation and just understanding that.
Yeah, and knowing that the instructors now believe that you've been through 2 years and you have a set of knowledge to bring with you to the classroom. I think that's why the first year is different. They're trying to feed you and develop you. In the second year, they're
Hmm.
still on the way trying to do that. in our College of Engineering, the third year is one of the most challenging years for the students. They get those higher level classes, but we're building the mental muscle in the first and second year for them to be able to adapt to the third year. And so the first year is not the reality of where you're going to be in the third year, as long as you're continuing to develop yourself, see your advisors, take advantage of tutoring, find the blessed place to study. That's one of the things I talk about in my book. Is not only studying, but it's the right place to study. Your room might not be the right place to study. You might need to study in the library, in a classroom. You might need to have a study group that you're working with. So studying isn't done one way. These are things that you can actually start doing before you get to college. So you have the habit of doing that, of having study hours and study time and planning for a quiet place to study. That kind of habit is a good one.
So, what is your writing process like, and how do you stay disciplined to complete a book?
Well, and you said something that is still important for me, is writing. A lot of people now with the laptops, they just type out their thoughts and write as they're writing their book. But I'm still kind of old fashioned in that way. I have these yellow pads and I start writing on the pad first because I just feel as there's more connection of writing it like that. And so I start writing in notepads. So wherever I'm going, if I'm on an airplane, if I'm in a hotel somewhere, I'm writing. And then in that writing, I start typing on the computer. And for me, I'm always starting off with what is my theme of my book and the table of contents. And the table of contents will tell me what I'm going to write about. I do tell, this may sound unconventional, but I do tell students that are writing a book, you don't have to start with the first chapter. If you know what your chapters are, and there's one chapter that you think will be motivating for you, start with that chapter. That's going to keep you moving forward with the book. So I set aside time in the evening. Sometimes I would come home and I would take a nap and then get up and write until 11 or 12 o'clock at night and go to bed. Weekends, as I said, traveling, I would write, and then you had to set aside time to type these things back in to meet the needs. And one thing that was good that I was self-publishing, so I wasn't on a deadline. When you're actually publishing for a publisher, they're going to give you a deadline by which this book is due. So I could operate not under that pressure as part of the process for me. And then I have a designer, I have a person that puts the book together and helps me with the cover. And I turn it, once I finish the writing part of it, I have it organized. I have it typed in, then he takes over and redesigns it. It makes it, look reasonable for a person to read, and makes the cover for the book. And then we're done. They're ready to go and send it off to be produced. So now, again, back in the day, when I first started writing these books, I would actually produce the book, and then we send it off, and we'd order 2,000 books. And I put the 2,000 books in my garage, and I would sell these books. But the new process is, once the book is done, put it into Amazon and use that as a way to get the book sold. So I do store some books here, but not thousands. I store enough for different occasions where I'm going out to share the books with others, and that has been wonderful.
So, what feedback or impact have you received from readers that has resonated with you the most?
Well, I just, not to brag, but I've sold 40,000 books. So I've gotten a lot of wonderful compliments on how easy it is to use the book. And I really wasn't originally targeting adult learners,
Mhm.
but I got some really positive things back from adult learners who were going back to school after having been out 10, 15 years, who haven't studied in such a long time, that they have benefited from the book to just think about what kind of study habits they were going to use and how they were going to manage their time and how they were going to prepare for tests. So I think that that's been great, as well as, getting it out there.
So let's transition to the real meat and potatoes, your
Uh-oh.
educator's perspective. How did you experience as an entrepreneur influence your approach to education?
Wow. How did my experience? Okay. So one of the things, actually, I have to tell this now, I had to go back to when I was a teenager, because um, I worked in community centers and I worked in my community as a young person, trying to inspire other young people to get their education and pursue, their different career opportunities. Even as like a 15, 14-year-old, I saw the need for young people to be educated. So I took leadership of organizations and things. Um, and then I went off to college. And because I have been engaged in all these community centers, I wanted to have my own community center.
Mm.
And I wanted to be able to go back to those communities and help them with educating young people, um, inspire them to do the sciences and math as opportunity and career opportunity. And when I got to college, this Act 101 program that I talked about earlier was for low income first generation college students. I served those students as a peer counselor
Mhm.
and never thought of the fact, well, two things. One, my advisor told me to go to grad school. I didn't even know what grad school was. So, and she said, "You're going to graduate school, right?" And I was like, "What is graduate school?" So she explained it to me. And I did go to graduate school at Howard University, the best Black HBCU in the country. Um,
Mhm.
so I went there. And then when I started applying to jobs, I got an offer to come work at a university
Oh,
with low
wow.
income, first generation, largely minority students. And I was like,
Mhm.
and God is so good. I didn't think of a community center on a college campus. I thought of a community center in the college. I mean, outside of the
Mhm.
college. But there was a need to have the same kind of center in the college. So I started off as assistant director of this program, where there were about 150 students that we monitor their academic progress and counsel them and tutor them to get through the curriculum. And then I became the director at Drexel University. And
Oh,
so we
wow.
had over 200 engineering and science students there that I worked with. And now it's kind of funny because some of their children are coming to my university and coming to my programs. So,
Mhm.
over the years, people have families and they grow and they come. But just, going back, setting the foundation for that was early in my life. And I'm so thankful that I found my mission in life early in life. But some people, they're chasing whatever their life's mission is for a good while before they come down with what that's going to be. But I think I was pretty clear on what I needed to do. And even though I had the center on a college campus, it didn't mean that I wouldn't go out to the community. I'm in the community all the time. I'm in schools all the time. So I got to still do both, but make sure that the students, when they got to the university, were going to be successful.
Mm. So, what subjects or topics do you feel are most important for students to learn in today's economy?
I'm going to definitely say math and science and technology. computer science, anything in those directions. Wherever you do today has some kind of technology involved in it. It used to be that um, in some of the schools they had an auto mechanic. High schools I'm talking about. You could learn how to be an auto mechanic in high school, but now those cars are computers by themselves, and so you can't
Mhm.
use the same old skills that you would use with these technological devices. So it's just like keeping up with all of that. The math and science and ability to critically think are important for the careers of the future. My wife had a surgery last year, and it was performed by robots. And
Mm.
so those are job opportunities that somebody's going to have to maintain those robots. Somebody's going to have to program those robots. Somebody's going to have to um, talk with the people who are using it. So there's many things around industries. We all have these um, different ways that we're going to shop. I go to the Amazon store to shop, and they have cameras, or I don't know, the units up in the ceiling. As you put the item in your basket, it's recording what that item is. And
Mm.
you come to the very end, you just put in your card, and it charges your card, and you keep going. So
Hey,
so
what do you think about how people are so afraid of AI today? Why do you think that's so, and do you think that's a real thing?
oh, it's absolutely a real thing. Like, what is real? It's the
Hmm.
question. I was just listening to a program. Um, Google has a new artificial intelligence, and it's not always as accurate as it needs to be. But they had to roll it out because they needed to compete with everybody else that's rolling theirs out. So you have to
Hmm.
be careful with it in terms of where it's getting its data and information from that it's giving to you. That's where the human part comes in to say, hey, I know that that's not correct. That AI is not giving me the right answer for, for what I'm seeing. And I think some people are even hoping that because there in other apps, you can actually cut off the artificial intelligence. In Google, you can't. So people are asking for that feature so they can decide when they want to use it and when they don't when they don't want to use it. But it's not going away. It's going to continue to grow and grow and grow. Um, we as humans have to manage it and keep things
Hmm.
secure because people are where there's good present, there's always evil seeking to twist it in some crazy way.
So, how do you engage students and help them connect academic concepts to real world applications?
Well, they, again, I love the fact that I'm in the College of Engineering. So I think that the students on an ongoing basis are living that out, in terms of getting them to take internships in companies around the world, around the United States, and applying the knowledge that they have through those classes. I think that that's the most important thing that a student can do is do an internship. But also, we have both study abroad, where you can actually go abroad and study and use your technology skills. And we have trips that our university students will go to, let's say, South America and help implement a solar system that will help their computers and laptops to run. So they actually go out into the world and use their technology skills and apply it so that when they come back to the classroom, they can really have good conversations with our faculty because they've actually been there, they've actually done it. And I would encourage students to definitely, have an open mind about where, technology, keep reading and learning in that area. It's going to help you be more marketable in your job. And, you bring up another point, job interviews. Like back in the day, you always went to meet with the person to do the job interview. Now today, the first interview is online. Um, and
Mhm.
now, not only are you interviewing, a student told me that they actually get tested online to see how quickly they can respond to various situations before they can even get into the interview. They want to see how they think and how they respond. So technology is even driving job interviews and internships. And for a company that saves them money in that they can bring the best of the best, when they finally want to pay for you to fly and meet with them, they they've chosen what they believe is the best of the best using technology.
Mm. What innovative teaching methods have you found to be the most effective in your classroom?
I still believe in hands-on activities and team activities to get students working together. And always in many jobs, we aren't just doing the work by ourselves. We're working with other people to produce a product or to produce a service. So I think that if I'm giving a workshop, I should make it creative. I should make it engaging. I have them write things. I have them do post-it notes. I have them use their cell phone. So I'm constantly keeping them moving and thinking what's the next thing that they have to do. I make them create scenarios. We'll do role plays of various scenarios. So they're totally engaged when we're doing the seminar. That's the benefit, and I think it's those things that they remember, not as much as always if you're standing up there just lecturing them. So that's my approach.
Now, as you say that, now I will tell you that was the one thing I found to be really profound um, for my when I was in
Mhm.
grad school. I want to ask you, I'm talking about the team concept because I really liked the little group concepts
Mhm.
that we had. But, I always thought that some of those was like a little bit off because some of the people in the group did not make it as dynamic
Mhm.
as it should be. My follow-up question is, how do you decide how you put this group together and what makes it dynamic?
Actually, I do it randomly. I I'll say
Mhm.
it depends on how many students are in a room, and how many people I want in the group. So I'll say count to seven, and they'll count to seven. Then the next group counts to seven. Next, all the ones over here, all the twos over here, all the threes over here, all the fours. So it's just a blend of all different. And very rarely do I get five people that are quiet people. It just creates more of a
Oh,
blending
wow.
because people that are already connected are sitting next to each other, but I want them to meet other people in the
Mhm.
group, and in doing that, they
Mhm.
find commonality. They find, that's another thing I'll say. Everybody in your group share what city you're from, share one thing that you're interested in, and that gives them a point of conversation to find those things that are in common in the group. And the funny part is they'll be in the same room. They've been meeting for weeks, and they haven't reached beyond the three people who sit next to them. So I'm challenging them to meet other people in the room because you never know. So I'll ask them, how many of you are excellent in calculus two? And they'll raise, a few of them will raise their hands. I'll tell them to turn around, see that student. If you need help, that's somebody that you can get. They're like, oh, we didn't think about that. Like, yeah, you have help right in the room that you're in, but you're not reaching out across the three people that are within your little circle.
Mm, that's interesting. Um, I'm going to talk about balancing roles here. How do you manage your time effectively